One thing I heard the good professor say was that the one thing you can guarantee is change is consistent, right? So here's the deal. I can't necessarily determine your business model, all right? Your industry will decide what the future holds. But along with that, you can see trends. And the reality is, as education advances, we want that quantified. That ultimately embodies itself in a credential. What does that mean to a program like myself and how it interrelates with what you do? The goal of my program is to ease the burden of cost for an employer. So as you continue to do your work, as you continue to offer value to your customers, ultimately gaining that credential is a real cost to you. And the goal behind the department is to continue to keep people trained and educated in the workforce. The whole goal of my program is an interdiction. The idea is to keep people trained so that they never lose their job. That's really at the heart and essence of the customized training program. So I guess the real reason I feel like I'm here today is to let you know that after you've had this discussion, as you see the industry trends changing around you, that ultimately there is a resource available to you to hopefully ease the burden of cost. And that would be the educational models that you've heard discussed. I've heard a couple of things, that the credentials that are coming down the pike. Should you choose to go after that, there is a means to get that paid for. All right, and then there's a little bit of, quid pro quo. We never really tell you until after you apply for the grant, which we can discuss. But the idea being is that there is this model that can help assist you with easing the burden of costs.
That comes down the pipe, or anything that's appropriate for this industry. How does somebody apply? How does it relate to its recovery effort?
All right. First, let's talk about the global business. Right. So I'm a business training program. I don't get into too much determination of what it is that you want. A business makes an application to the Department of Labor, and they're basically telling us we've already decided who we want to teach that skill to us, and we know what the skill is. The business model that we have is that we're always looking for an efficiency of a classroom size instructional model. All right. Now some of that's not so perfectly clean. Some of this has to take place actually in the field. We refer to that as on-the-job training. But the reality is we're looking sort of a number of 10. So how do you apply? I guess it depends on the size of your business. You could be a direct applicant to us. That's not a problem. We issue grants anywhere from $6,000 to gave Revel $1.5 million. So there's no real cap. The caps are embedded within the programs themselves. How much do we allow individually to be spent on an individual? Currently at this time, the cap is $2,000 per person, roughly $100,000 per business. That's usually how we go about doing things. Within that, the business makes the application. They have identified a training provider. We sit in judgment of your application. And at the end of the day, the state's looking for a return on investment. So for the money that we're going to put out, what are we going to see? Are we going to see that worker gain a credential that's portable as part of the judgment? Are we going to see worker wages advance? Are we going to see the company have a stronger footing here in the state of New Jersey? All those things go into the mix. As far as specific to the recovery, it's no secret, right? Since October, this state has been reeling. Now, there's a balance to that. I spoke earlier this year before the Cape May County Chamber of Commerce, and one of the things that you get into when you get down in this area is, we definitely need the help to get going again, but we don't want to keep screaming that we're disaster driven because, the shore is still open. Everybody's heard the song and the commercial ads in the last couple of weeks, I'm sure. We have taken our program this past year and dedicated specific dollars as well as consideration on every grant that comes through to hear an expression on recovery for this state. So if you are a business that is expanding your workforce specifically because you've seen an influx in work due to the recovery, there's extra consideration for the grant process. If you are a business that has been reeling and are just trying to get back in tow, trying to get back up and running, there's consideration on those grants. At the end of the day, I do not wish to delude you. We are a training grant, all right? So we don't cover business losses, we don't do those type of things. What we do is we train your workforce. So when I say that we give consideration, keep in mind how that fits into the model of training. So it's going to be enough of me fighting with my insurance company to get back up and running. The last thing I need is to put extra cash out to train my workforce. That's where you can see us coming in. those type of things. So I hope that covered
That
it.
was good.
So you mentioned, I guess, the cohort training model, if you will. If I were a company that had maybe 4 people that I wanted to get trained, could I partner up with someone and apply?
Absolutely. What I mentioned earlier, that the state's always looking for a return on its investment. We will actively promote, there's no denying it, we promote consortiums, those type of group things. You're housed here today in the Atlantic Cape Community College. The state's community college system provides us a great outlet, all right? Instantly, we're in every community, all right? The ability and strength of the college is they act as the role of the convener. They can be the applicant on the grant, taking that burden away. They can turn around and bring multiple businesses that have like training needs together. You know, I mean, I think all of you know who your competitors are, and you know who else does the same type of work in the industry. But to call them up and say, hey, I'm going to send 2 of my guys to do X, can you do the same thing? It's probably something that's not necessarily part of what your everyday work schedule includes. But knowing that there's a resource, knowing that there's this opportunity, so I'm not going to go out and advocate directly for Atlantic Cape Community College, they could do that themselves, but the idea that the community college has the strength and resources to offer you this type of training, or at least begin the process of convening that here in the local area.
That's a good question, because that is true. There's a lot of companies that are smaller with, you know, if we need 10 per class, and there's 5 companies who need the same type of training, but no one can send 10. We work with, or any of the community colleges, you know, work with the employer, multiple employers, to make that one. You're not giving away company secrets. You're sitting like here in a training class. So it's kind of nice, because as we need more credentials, as Howard was saying, and as I'm hearing today, 3 more, 4 more. I mean, you know, so it really does. You know, it's the only way to do it, really, if you want to get it done.
Exactly what type of training would be of interest to the contractor? I mean, typical non-certified contractor like you gentlemen, you know, they actually, you know, they sub their insulation out. They sub out a lot of their framing. They sub out, you know, a lot of their building particles. But I live in Orkney Beach, and on the barrier island of you know, Ocean County. We have an influx of contractors coming down there from not just all over the state, but all over the country. And the people are desperate. They're not, I mean, they're just trying to get rebuilt. They're getting anybody. And you talk about having standards, there appears to be little or none. So how do we go to those contractors and say, through our grants, we can offer training? What would be of interest? I mean, insulation comes to my mind.
Right.
What else could I get 10 people together and put a workforce training conference or workshop together that trains these people to certify the business and helps the consumer?
I can always prompt folks with ideas, but one of the things I've learned in my years is don't tell people what they want. That's one thing that you ultimately will figure out. I think that I can help shape a business model, but you've heard today this was specific to the green, the industry, the certifications around it. It has play in recovery. But I got to be honest with you, I'm thinking past that as I was sitting there listening in the back talking to you today. There's all sorts of trainings that we sponsor. Remember, our goal is to strengthen companies, enhance the workforce, and continue to see growth within those companies. We know as a fact for the last 15 years, the highest level of growth for any type of employment is with small businesses. So when I think about that, what could you all gain? Today you were here and exposed to the opportunities for these certifications, and I offer you a pathway to eventually have that expense covered. But think beyond that. What does your business need to strengthen? I mean, everything from your bookkeeper and keeping QuickBooks and those type of things. Those are trainings that I would tell you have play in the employment world, right? What is it that you need? And I don't like to define in advance. All I ask to do is sort of spark an interest. So at the end of the day, I oversee a business training grant program. Businesses have the right to define what training they want. We sit in judgment of that. There's things that you can clearly see when we advertise our grant program that we're looking for, right? We give extra points to small businesses that apply. We give extra businesses that are in a targeted industry. This year we're giving extra points to businesses that focus on the recovery of the state. But at the end of the day, it's a business training program. So what do your businesses need? All right, so if it's the certification so that you can do your job better, that's in play. if it's just some ancillary type of training that'll help efficiently move you forward. I heard earlier somebody talking about the international standards. ISO certification is something that we cover as well. I think it depends on the scale, however, of the company. What are you ready for at the time that you are asking for it? And that's usually how the decisions are made.
Howard, the state, if I'm understanding this right, say I have an employee that I want to train, you'll assist in his training to like a VOTEC or to a community college type of thing? Or?
I'm more of a one and done kind of type of training. I mean, when you think about what we do, we're training your existing workforce. So the idea that somebody's going to take a break from work and then go off on an extended vocational type of exercise is not usually in play, although the Department of Labor does cover that type of stuff.
So if I have if I have somebody working for me presently, what do you do to subsidize that person?
All right, well, first it would be, what are you looking for? I mean, at the end of the day, we're really going to have a brass tacks conversation, which is, what are you looking for? You're looking for X from your worker. The goal is, how do I fit that into the program, is really how I look at it. So if I heard discussion today about the certifications that are coming down the pike. Those certifications are going to have X number of clock hours, they're going to have ultimate commitments, right? But in the long run, the play for the employer is, you have a certified worker, you can turn around and go after different type of work, right? You can advertise that you have a certified workforce, those type of things. Those have a real cost to you. In order for you to get that, you either have to hire that person with their already credentialed, or they have to be credentialed while they're on the job for you. So the stuff that I'm talking about is things that take place during the workday where they can go for 2-3 hour classes, or they go for multiple 2-3 hour classes over a couple of weeks, those type of things. That's the type of stuff that we pay for. Long-term occupational type of trainings, the department has those, but most of the money is geared towards those that are out of work, not those that are still currently connected. We are beginning the process, but I think I shouldn't lie to you. This is something that will take place over multiple years, and that is looking linearly at every type of training. How does one lead to the other, right? So the Department of Labor, as I mentioned earlier, 90% of our business model is focused on those that are out of the workforce and getting them back in. There's a lot of dollars that are dedicated in that effort, but ultimately you have to say to yourself, how do we make these things work most efficiently, right? So there's money that's dedicated to get people back in. Maybe this is where I should be spending my money, so that you already have the ability to hire somebody that already has the credential. Now once they're on the job, maybe you have to continue to do certain CEUs, continuing education units, in order to keep your credential. That's a program like mine. I keep you going. And that's the idea that you'll see over the next couple of years, is that you'll see the Department of Labor begin the process of starting to line these up where one leads to the other, leads to the other.
So it's not a subsidy of paid salary or anything that you do?
It can be depends on the type of training. I mean, this is one of the things where you get into the sort of nuance of the program. And if you want, guys, I'll be totally out of help. You have no problem. I could talk about this all day. We have two main models. We reimburse whoever is the applicant X number of dollars for a task. So let's say that you picked Atlantic Cape to do your training. We will pay up to $200 for clock hours spent. But that $200 is predicated on 10 people being in a classroom, okay? We also offer on-the-job training as a model of reimbursement, and that is a straight-up wage reimbursement. We will reimburse 50% of what you pay someone to do a task. And the concept behind OJT is very strict for the Department of Labor. In the process of training, a good or service is produced. All right? So in order for you to qualify for on-the-job training, you're technically showing somebody how to do the job, but as they're doing it, they're actually doing the work and producing the good or service.
That's been around for years.
And that's been around for years. So all it is to me, it's not a program, it's a payment model. Right? So when you apply to us, I pay one of two ways.
So if you take a guy and he comes to work for you, you're training him on a job, you'll subsidize his salary up to, was it 6 months, I think it was?
Well, those are individual grants. Mine is a group grant. But yes, you're right. They do offer it up to 6 months. And young lady in the back, more than happy to help you out. She's the point person here in Atlantic County, Elaine. Let's give a little wave. Elaine can write you an on-the-job training contract valued at X number of dollars.
Up to $10,000.
Up to $10,000 cap, right? You can do 50% of the wages for the trainee up to a maximum of 6 months. So basically what you have to do is you got to look at what you're paying somebody, cut it in half, play that out over X number of weeks.
But it's a new hire.
New hire. It's not intended to take the people that you got already. It's people that you're bringing on. You're expanding your workforce. Yes, sir.
Do you still have the restriction on how many people you can work with?
Oh, like you have to have 4 full-time employees per one. Elaine,
25% of your workforce.
That's about the contract though,
Say
right?
that again?
So it's 25% of your workforce, so you have to have, right, 4, Elaine, to get one new wage reimbursed employee.
But when we went through that here, we
Same
wanted
thing.
10. We wanted 10 employees to get.
Different
That's the classroom style training. That's why I want to make sure that there's a nuance thing here. So the business trainings that you may have participated, you may have gone to a class, right?
No,
You were-
we helped teach a class, and we volunteered to take those 10 people and do on-the-job training. But because I didn't have 10 journeymen on staff at that time, they would only give me 1. So everything that we wanted to do as far as giving them training and then bringing them on as full-time employees went right down the tubes because of that rule.
That was the ARA funds. So that was different,
Federal
OJT,
stuff.
yeah, so I think it's changed now,
We should talk.
Elaine.
I agree.
One thing I believe is that the Department of Labor, and I mentioned this to somebody in the back earlier today, it's not about politics. Regardless of what administration's here, this program will continue to exist. It's been around since 1992. It'll be here well past my career of being open, all right? But one thing I do like about this current administration is that they've sort of turned a little bit of the stuff on its ear. It's forced us all to look at what we do, how we do it, and while we have an institutional approach to this type of stuff, in problem-solving efforts, you really have to say, what's the market look like today? You know, so for the longest time, I came into a program that was already well-established, well-oiled machine. We only train 10 people at a time. We do it this way, Howard. This is what we do. All your job is to shepherd the process. What I'm looking at is apprenticeship models work. The only thing is have a connotation, right? And the idea is it doesn't have to be an apprenticeship model is teaching somebody over time. That's all it is. So we are looking at that model, how can that be applied across the board? And when you think about what you guys are doing in your own industry, so you start out with a credential, and you know that in order to have a career path, you have to graduate from credential to credential, and so on and so forth. That, to us, is an apprenticeship model. We are building those. There's nothing in place at this time. But along the pathways, we are having these conversations. We see the interplay. So I heard somebody ask earlier today, how do we turn around and certify you, but then there's nobody coming in behind you that sort of follows up on this?
A lot of the agencies now are trying to go out and take them on their own.
Yep.
I mean, if we knew that we had a group rate or something like that, we would not be doing that right now. And that pilot test that was just taken, we didn't do fair well in New Jersey, did we? And these are people, I just want everybody to know this, these are people that have been in the industry for years, just took this pilot test and they didn't fare well.
Yeah,
Okay?
it
And
is,
it's
we were the
important.
provider
This
of the
test that they're
pilot
talking about,
exam.
It's difficult. It's not easy. It's more than what we do as weatherization. It's a lot more. It's more chemistry involved. It's very, very detailed.
Okay.
As one of the, you say graduate from credential to credential to credential, and that's not necessarily true in all industries.
True.
As licensed electricians, we get a license from multiple states, state of New Jersey, for example, which isn't easy to obtain. What's our next credential? Now we're hearing that in order for us to do the job that we've been doing for 40 years, we've got to go get another credential to verify that the state of New Jersey knew what they were doing when they licensed us.
All right. I apologize to my fellow panel. I have often been told I suck the air out of a room. I'm going to stay clear of that politics, but I so thank you for saying that you were an electrician. My family is a bunch of historical electricians, so I'll offer you the same answer I gave my uncle, my grandfather, and my brother. Over time, you're pulling wire. You used to do 2-wire, you went to 3. There's different issues that have happened in your industry over time, whether it was an aluminum issue came in over time. The reality is, your industry still had changes. Certification was the same, but the products may have changed over time. How they used in the residential versus industrial setting. Those things still were skills that had to be taught. Still had the same license. You know, you didn't have to go back to school, you didn't have to become a journeyman again or an apprentice and become a journeyman. You still had your certification, but the education of the industry advanced. Those are also things that are in play with what we do. So it doesn't have to lead to a certification. It could mean that you're just advancing the skill set.
And
all of that stuff is about doing business.
Right, and we do continuing education courses on a regular basis. You have to do that in order to maintain your license. So you go through these continuing education courses. It could be given by the DCA, it could be given by manufacturers, whatever the case might be. But that's not another credential.
No, that is just an advancing of the existing skill set in my world to stay in business.
Thank you. All right, that was good. All right, next is Charles Goldate. If you want to come on up here, he's a technical services manager.
I'd rather sit if you could all hear me.
From
Okay.
EAM Associates.
I am EAM Associates is an energy consulting firm. We don't install insulation, we don't install windows, we don't install HVAC. What we do is third-party independent inspections of those types of things. We do Energy Star homes, new homes. We are a BPI testing center. I have several BPI certifications, NATE certified, all these certifications, I can't even, LEED certified.
Lead opponents, Green Raiders.
Green Raider. I am a ResNet HERS Raider. Basically what we do is third-party quality inspections. We do the gentleman before asked about the Energy Star homes inspections. We do those types of inspections. We do code compliance inspections, lead for homes, quality inspections, those types of things are what we do. There's a million different certifications that you could get. BPI has several of them. Again, NATE. ResNet is more geared towards new homes. That's what we do.
You guys are involved with the clean energy program, right?
We are. A portion of our company works for the commercial industrial programs under the clean energy program. We do outreach. We also do quality inspections for that. We kind of keep it separate, the residential side and the commercial side, but we are involved in those types of things also, those programs. So we do both the residential and the commercial industrial. Obviously, we're more on the, we're an independent contractor on the residential side. We work for the program administrator on the commercial industrial side.
So you do work for contractors in Charles?
Yes, we do. The new code, the new building code for residential requires blower door tests, insulation and air sealing inspections, duct blaster tests for the duct systems. We do those tests and qualify you for the new energy code. Certain areas, New Jersey has a Permit Extension Act, so some companies are building still under the 2006 codes. The new code in New Jersey, the new energy code in New Jersey at this point is, again, residential, is the 2009 code requires a visual inspection of the insulation installation and the air sealing installation, as well as a duct tightness test. We actually test the duct system to see how much leakage is in there, and there's minimums or maximums that are allowed under those new codes that we test for, and we can certify that it was done correctly.
When will New Jersey move to the 2012 code?
I hope not for a while, because we're just kind of getting what we consider the 2009 code is kind of a learning process. The 2009 Energy Code allows for a visual inspection of the insulation and the air sealing. A blower door test doesn't lie. I may look at something a little bit differently than someone else does. The blower door test, performed properly, is basically should be the same. So this inspection process that they're allowing now is kind of getting everybody up to speed, the insulators, the air sealers, the HVAC contractors, getting them up to speed to get to a certain point that when the 2012 code comes in, you could do any inspection, any visual inspection, you have to pass those blower door tests, and that is, we're finding out is a very hard number to get to. And the duct test, again, is a you know, it's an education of the contractors. It's getting the contractors to take that next step up in quality of their installation, and making sure that the envelope is sealed properly, and that the HVAC systems are operating properly in that house.
Does that, you have to get the ceiling installed on the second floor, right, before you do your blower door?
We do a blower door test at the end, yeah, sheetrocked.
The whole building's already sheetrocked?
Yep, the house is ready for CO when we do our blower door test.
But couldn't that be a problem?
Absolutely, that's why it's very important that
So why don't they rewrite the code to do the blower door test when the sheetrock's in the ceiling, this way you have the wall open?
Well, now, because still going to be cracks and crevices in the walls and stuff, even though it's air sealed properly. The only real way to do it is at the end.
If you do it in stages, though, you can see that, you know, before sheetrock's up, for example, you know you're 80% there, and then you know, like if you do it in stages, that's a good way to do it, so you know at the end you're not going up.
Well, certainly we could do them a number of times for you, but you know, each time we come out, it costs money. So
but it's cheaper to do a repair before the...
Well, absolutely, but that's why I say that this 2009 code is a learning process for builders and for contractors, that, listen, this is what you need, we know what you need to do to reach that 3 CFM per 100 square feet blower door number. We know what you need to do. Okay, we've been doing it long enough. We certified, you know, more than 10,000 houses in the state. So we know what you need to do to get there. We certainly could educate you. We go and do this inspection now, and we can show you, again, it's in the rough stage. This needs to be air sealed better. The insulation needs to be installed better. Insulation technically does not stop airflow, but you know, it's still incorporated into that inspection. Air sealing is the big issue for the blower door test. But learning process, it's market transformation. New Jersey's not paying out all this money in rebates and incentives for no reason. It's to transform the industry, to bring that standard up a little bit higher. Energy Star, same type of thing. It's to change the way we look at things. Typically, if a builder is building Energy Star houses, he's building Energy Star houses wherever he builds, not one here or one there. So we changed the market. We now build in that same home more efficient than code even. An Energy Star house is typically around 15%, minimum 15% better than a code house energy efficient wise. So, you know, it's transforming the market. We talked earlier about the house has to breathe. Well, that's the way we all used to think about things, you know. Asbestos used to be a great insulator, but we found out, wait a minute, it's not a great insulator. So, you know, it's a great insulator, but it's going to kill us. So, you know, we kind of stopped using it, even though it was still good. So these things kind of, you know, we learn things, and we change. So letting the house breathe, it's got to dry out. Well, if it doesn't have to dry out if we keep all the moisture out of it. So if we could build that house as tight as we possibly can, keep all the moisture out of it, and ventilate it mechanically correctly to the exact amount. We talked about earlier the 70s. I happen to be young enough to remember the 70s. The oil crisis, we built all these commercial buildings, none of the windows opened. No ventilation systems. Everybody got sick. Couldn't figure out why. Of course, we have no more fresh air. Build it as tight as you can. Ventilate it mechanically properly, and we'll all be good. We'll save energy, have a healthy house, durable house, and happy homeowners.
Charles, your inspections, it sounds to me like it would be best to have a pre-inspection instead of at the end when it's rock.
Typically what we do is what we call a pre-drywall inspection, which is air sealing. All your mechanicals are done, air sealing is done, insulation is installed, ductwork typically is installed, and we do a visual inspection. Again, you know, we've done thousands of these inspections. We know where to look, what to look for. We know where air sealing needs to be done. typically what we do as a company is if you were to sign up for HVAC contractor, whoever's involved, and we specifically, okay, you can't chink around a window no more with insulation, you have to fill that in with caulk or foam or baccarat or things like that. So we know where those areas of infiltration are in a house. We meet and we go over it, and with the contractor, again, typically we want to get to the guy who's going to do the work, the guy who's going to be on the job with the caulking gun in his hand with the insulation and explain to them. And again, it's that learning process, it's that education that goes along with it that's going to get you to that next level of. And again, energy code it's coming. I mean, Maryland's doing it now. Delaware's teetering on taking the 2012 code. There's other states that are talking about it, and it's going to come. And then you can do all the visual inspections you want. If you don't pass that test, I built my whole house, it's all done, I'm ready to sell it. I go downtown and they say, okay, well, where's your blower door certificate? Where's your duct blaster certificate? Well, I didn't pass. Well, you don't get a CO. So, you're going to have to get there. I know it's going to be by kicking and screaming to get there, but you're going to have to get there. So,
what's an average cost to do your inspections?
Well, again, it depends on what it is, but typically $500-600.
For insulation, duct,
no.
blower door?
Yeah, to do the inspections.
Well, to do the test.
Yeah, yep,
About $500 or $600?
Yes.
For the insulation, blower door.
Insulation.
Ductwork.
Yep.
Related to that, dovetailing on what he was asking about testing at certain timing, you mentioned ductwork. I was building houses in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, and we did a group of Energy Star houses. The first one, I talked the guy that was kind of like you into coming in and doing a duct blaster earlier than he would have. Because on the first one, I said, what good is it going to do me after the house is done, and you throw that thing and find out my ducts are leaking?
Right.
At that point, I might just say, I'm not going Energy Star. Now, for this program, you don't have a choice. You don't get the bucks if you don't go Energy Star.
Right.
But the idea is, I'm going to start tearing up drywall everywhere to find some leaky ducts. So he came in, well, that's kind of expensive, right? Anyway, he came in and he did one while we were still open. And we worked with the HVAC contractor because it was a new application for them.
Right.
And he found out, it's a little more time, it's a little messy, but it really wasn't that hard to do it.
Typically, what we do for our code, if we're just doing a code inspection for code compliance, we do it in a rough stage. Because you're right, it's totally easier to do it and fix it then. Absolutely. With the Energy Star, it all comes down to one thing: money. How many times do you want me to come out, and how many times are you willing to pay me to come out? Because it costs me money to send my guy out to your house to test it. So if I have to come 3 times instead of twice, that's 1/3 more that it costs. So if you as a customer are willing to pay that additional cost, we'll do it 10 times if you want us to, as long as you're willing to pay us. So that's kind of, and again, what we do in an Energy Star house is we do a visual inspection of that duct system. And again, we've done many of them to know, do we get it right every single time? No, no one is perfect. We always, there's always a chance you're going to certainly miss something. I've gone into houses where the HVAC contractor, he mastics the bottom of the duct where you would just kind of look up and see it, but nothing around the top. Or, he does the first one by the scuttle hole and doesn't do anything at the other end, figuring, that guy's not walking all the way down the other end. So, you always have those types of situations. But typically, in a visual inspection on the rough, we have a good idea of how it needs to be done and whether you did it properly, and we can work it out. Ben?
The New Jersey Clean Energy Program version of Energy has a requirement for fully ducted mastic seal. So that's ducted supplies and ducted returns, fully mastic seals. And that is the single biggest first step you can make to meeting the duct leakage requirements. And that was put in years ago.
Right. New Jersey was way beyond it, because still you could get away with it in the federal program. You don't have to deduct your returns. But
Right.
using pan bays, haven't been an HVAC contractor for a long time. Pan bays, they leak like hell. I don't care what you do to them, they leak like hell.
So do that first, and it makes,
Yeah.
incremental steps a lot more easy. Energy Star put out an update of the version 3 standard 2 weeks ago. It allows for testing of roughen for total duct leakage, which means you can get that heads up. In fact, if you meet a slightly better threshold at roughen, then you don't have to do the final test. You can pass it roughen. But total duct leakage is very hard to attain.
Absolutely.
It's a very strict standard, and the 2012 code requires an even more strict standard.
That's right.
And so, to your point about market transformation, participating in these programs is a really great way of learning how to meet these standards that are going to get even more strict.
So I guess it's a good payoff to have somebody on staff that can do these tests and monitor the situation before you come out on your last visit.
Well, certainly that is helpful. It's a the investment in the equipment is, I don't know, probably about $7,000 or $8,000 now, just for the blower door, duct blaster, those types of things. Yeah, I mean, but again, getting that HVAC contractor to do it right the first time, because we used to have a saying, there's never enough time to do it right, but always enough time to go back and fix it, With duct sealing, if you don't seal it right the first time, it's very, very difficult to go back and get it. It's very difficult to get back there and figure out where that air is leaking from. We do smoke tests on systems to kind of pinpoint where that air is coming from. I mean, we're talking about, we measure in pascals, which is a very small pressure difference. And I mean, to find those tiny little leaks, sometimes they all add up. So, if you don't get them the first time, it's difficult to get them back. So getting that contractor to do it right the first time is very, very important. So,
but when you're building several houses. So to have one person on the staff that can test all these houses,
absolutely,
it's a payoff no matter how much investment you do. With
absolutely.
All right, that was a great conversation. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin Hanby is wonderful. Represents the URS Corporation. And I was doing my research on the URS Corporation. I had no idea how big it was. Worldwide, 50,000?
50,000 employees in 121 countries, yes.
Yeah, so that's pretty big. But most importantly for us here in New Jersey, you're the RFQ lead for New Jersey. So you have to explain this to us, of course, the RREM program. And the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs appointed U.S. corporation to handle
programs who receive money from the Superstorm Sandy grant, or actually the 2013 disaster recovery grant. Either be Energy Star, Enterprise Green Community, Lead New Construction for new construction, ICC 700 National Green Building Standards, EPA Indoor Plus, or the consistent with the New Jersey Clean Energy Program. So it's got to do one of those. It's got to have that standard in there somewhere. Standards, we do know that we are requiring all homes to be built with green energy in some form. They're still being finalized, and you will know that probably, I'm guessing, by the middle of August get issued. One of the reasons that it's different is because the way the program works is the URS, and there are two other REM program managers, and I'll explain that in a minute. Gilbane Building Company and CBI, Shaw International, are all, and URS are all. You'll get a scope of work. It will have what is necessary to build that house, and it'll give you a budget attached to it, or you'll be bidding depending on if it's new construction or rehabilitation. That combination will have the green energy standards already built into it, so we won't be saying you have to go guess as to what we want you to do. They'll be there, they'll have a standard in it, and it'll be priced, and it'll be put into the price to make sure that you have sufficient inspections, etc., that are part of that cost. that's kind of the generic, we're going to do this. Now, the concept is we currently have out a request for qualifications for general contractor pool. You must be part of the qualified contractor pool to receive any work and direct assignment. I mean, obviously you can be a sub under one of those qualified contractors, but you must be in the qualified contractor pool in order to receive direct assignments. The qualified contractor pool round 1 closes tomorrow at 3. So it's a 73-page application. Right now you probably aren't going to get it in by 3 o'clock tomorrow. Start doing the policies and procedures. It's not in the RFQ requirement. It is, if you look, it's in the Federal Register that was published March 5th of 2012. There's a section that talks about one of these requirements are required. We did have one statement in there that would have to be Energy Star level rated, and so that's the only one I believe we actually put in there correctly. Others are still being determined as to what's going to be necessary. There's obviously a big back and forth, because if we're building 4,000 homes and it costs $1,000 to get them certified, that's $4 million taken out of the program to do that. And if you're looking at it, that's $4 million. You know, you have to, is it 30 homes or something that will not
Well, you
get,
got
20 homes that will not get built.
You know,
But
2,000.
That's not us, though.
No,
That's what we're doing,
right,
so it's kind of,
right.
so you start talking about it, there's a real, it's a push and pull all the time. You were talking about earlier, the cost, and that's one of the reasons that we are interested in the green building is because people have to afford these homes.
I'm the executive director for continuing ed at Ocean County College, and Mike Frisella here is our project director for the Recovery New Jersey Talent Network. And basically what our grant, we got the grant for, would be for a communications network to try to get all this information. I mean, we crammed in, what, 2 hours of tons of information this morning? Well, you can imagine the homeowners and the businesses and the people that got hurt by no jobs. They're out there trying to figure a lot of this out, and 100 times more. There's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of, I went to 17 meetings and I got 17 stories, and so this grant was really meant for us to bring all of this communication together. And the purpose of the grant is the primary contact and facilitator for revitalization efforts to connect employers and job seekers in the communities affected by Sandy. And we're directly working with the Labor Department and all the offices in the probably the 9 or 10 affected counties. And it is our hope that we can connect a lot of businesses that were affected and connect them to the Labor Department and to all of these wonderful things that we've learned about today, so that they can actually apply for different effects. And the thing is how can you help? You could register any available jobs that you have for people on the Jobs for New Jersey website, and Michael can help you on that one. And we are trying to tell people to go out and look for these jobs that have been affected on this website. There's a program and all the community colleges run weekly for people that are out there unemployed, and they're on their 2nd year of unemployment. We're bringing them in, trying to tell them an reorientation on how to find the jobs that are out there. So if you have any employees, or you know you're going to need more employees, if you register on this Jobs for New Jersey, on the business section, the employees are trying to look for those jobs on the same site. It's a business side and an employee side. And trust me, I'm going through over 200 people a week at Ocean County in this program. And I'm kind of on the low side compared to some of the other counties. So, and this is again the 2nd year of unemployment.
You make a good point about checking with the one-stops.
Right.
Elaine Williams does a great job connecting in Atlantic and Cape May County, connecting employers with people who need jobs. So if we have 4,000 homes that need to be built at a rapid pace,
right,
and we have all these people looking for work, I mean, I'm hoping that we can find a connection
And plus,
between.
that's where the recovery for Jersey
Yeah.
grant comes from.
Right.
So if you're hiring and it's a dislocated worker, yeah, like I said,
County, there's a person that's designated for that recovery in New Jersey. And we can,
But I have the list, and I mean, you know, if you want, you can contact me, and she'll give you my email, and I'll give you the actual flyer with all the contacts.
yeah, we have that too, yeah. And that's what our grant that we got from the state is to try to bring all this communication together, whether you're from an Atlantic contractor or an ocean contractor or Monmouth. Michael Priscilla here can help you connect to the one-stops and to the thing.
Do you screen the individuals, or are you just coupling a name and a phone number?
Avenue to go out and put their application and their resume online.
The one-stop screen.
The one-stop screens them.
Right.
But my grant just funnels them into to be able to do that.
When you put them, when you put them on Jobs for Jersey, if you contact the One Stop and just say, listen, I just put this post on Jobs for Jersey, we'll go back, the staff will go back, screen however you want. They have staff there that screen people. We have a search mechanism, and then we can funnel them to you, so.
I think the one thing that's really important in this is that every time we go out and talk to people, people don't realize that that service is there. So that's what we're trying to, from the business side, that you can register, and then from the people that are seeking jobs, they can register, and the people from the one-stops then put all this together and connect you. And you can go to the one-stops and talk to them and put any kind of restrictions you want, and they will absolutely honor that. But again, our grant was to get everybody in the communication network together.
Have you discussed certifying people to be Section 3 employees that could create a Section 3 pool for contractors?
I was going to
That
make
would
that
be through
point.
the one-stops.
It's something to consider, and because that is, we're talking about $600 million, and about 30% of the new hires have to be Section 3 employees, so you're talking about a large pool.
Yeah, I worked with an employer years ago on that, but I didn't do that.
It's a new emphasis for HUD. It hasn't been really followed, even though it's been in the Fair Housing Act since 1968 or whatever. It's really been followed. Exactly. But since
Now we're following it.
we're following it in the past 3 years. It's a new emphasis, so it is one of those things that if you don't hire enough Section 3, and the magical term is beyond reasonable efforts, you have to go beyond reason. You can't just say, I put an ad out, nobody answered, I'm done. You have to actually take a little more affirmative step, and I do